The central atrium of the Whitmore wing at the Meridian Mall shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers hung from the glass skylight, their light catching on polished marble and the mirrored storefronts that ringed the space. A long VIP row of seats had been arranged for a private celebration, a boutique opening and society gathering that drew the city's elite, relatives, investors, and old friends, all dressed in their finest. The air hummed with polite laughter and the low murmur of admiration for the Whitmore name. At the temporary podium near the shop's entrance stood Gregory Whitmore, a white man in a sharp suit with an even sharper tongue. He raised a champagne flute with theatrical confidence. To success, to power, and to the Whitmore name, he declared into the microphone. The assembled crowd repeated the toast. Glasses chimed and cameras clicked from the fashion press tucked behind velvet ropes. Across the aisle, among faces that were mostly pale and expectant, sat Jasmine Whitmore, a black woman whose quiet presence often went unnoticed. She wore a simple emerald green dress that set off her skin, her hair pulled back neatly. She sat composed and still, a deliberate calm in a sea of chatter. To most attendees, she was a courteous guest. To Gregory, she was an easy target. "Jasmine," Gregory bellowed, the microphone amplifying his cruelty. "Are you going to sit there silent again?" Heads turned. Some offered awkward smiles. Others pretended not to hear. Jasmine lifted her glass slowly, voice low but steady. "I thought your words were enough, Gregory." Gregory laughed, a harsh sound that bounced off the mall's glass. "Of course, the quiet one has nothing to say. What use are you here? Just another ornament for our events." Margaret Whitmore, Gregory's mother, draped in black silk and staring with cold, disapproving eyes, leaned forward from her seat. "She's here because you married her," she sniffed aloud. "Sometimes I still wonder why you brought someone from that small neighborhood into our family." Jasmine's fingers tightened around the flute, but she did not rise to the bait. She had learned to wear their insults like a second skin. Gregory smirked and pressed on, voice dripping scorn. "Look at her, sitting like a statue. No spark, no charm. What exactly do you bring to this family besides being visible?" A hush spread through the VIP section. Jasmine met his stare and answered with two measured words. "Loyalty. Respect. Loyalty." Gregory scoffed. "Don't make me laugh. Nobody here respects you." Some nearby guests shifted in their seats, discomfort showing on polite faces. Claire Bennett, a white woman seated beside Jasmine, reached subtly and placed her hand over Jasmine's under the armrest. "Don't let him get to you," she murmured. Gregory's mockery escalated until, in a move that stunned the crowd, he leaned forward and spat, an ugly arc that crossed the aisle and landed on the front of Jasmine's emerald dress. Forked gasps and camera shutters filled the space. For a heartbeat, the mall felt too small for what had happened. Jasmine froze, eyes dropping to the spreading stain. She did not scream. Her silence slammed like a door. Gregory laughed, triumphant. "See? Worthless. A joke." Margaret sighed with faux pity. "This is what happens when you marry beneath yourself." Daniel, Gregory's younger brother, chuckled under his breath and enjoyed the spectacle as if it were theater. Claire's hand moved instinctively. She slipped a handkerchief from her clutch and reached for Jasmine. "Here, take this," she whispered, pressing it into Jasmine's fingers. Jasmine accepted it and dabbed at the dress, keeping her face composed. "Don't listen to him. You're better than this," Claire added. Jasmine nodded once and folded the handkerchief with quiet deliberation. Claire's expression flickered in a way Jasmine didn't read, perhaps sympathy, perhaps something more conflicted. The rest of the event continued with awkward civility. Cameras lingered. People mouthed condolences at a distance. Gregory raised his glass again with theatrical cruelty. "To my dear wife, the quietest woman in the world," he said, and a few nervous chuckles rippled through the VIPs. No one confronted him. When the guests finally dispersed down the mall corridors, whispering and passing through aisles of boutique shoppers, Jasmine stayed seated a moment longer, dignity intact despite the stain on her dress and the ache behind her eyes. Claire lingered, ashamed and uncertain. "You didn't deserve that," she said softly. "Don't be sorry for me," Jasmine answered, folding the handkerchief slowly. "Save your sorrow for them." Claire blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" "One day," Jasmine said quietly, "the same people who laugh will choke on it." #####the study. That evening, inside the Whitmore mansion, the glitter of the mall felt distant. Jasmine retreated to the quiet of her study. The opulence of mahogany and books fell away as she opened a hidden drawer in her desk. Inside were documents, trust papers, shareholder certificates, and inked agreements. Jasmine had kept a secret for years. She held 90% of Whitmore Enterprises, the controlling stake no one suspected. She remembered when Gregory's arrogance nearly ruined the company. Investors fled, debts ballooned, and bankruptcy loomed. In that crisis, Jasmine's inheritance, quietly invested under an alias, had stabilized the business and kept the Whitmores afloat. Gregory had taken credit for the recovery, basking in a public image built on Jasmine's quiet sacrifice. She could strip him of everything with a single announcement. But she wasn't interested in spectacle for spectacle's sake. Power, for her, would be correct and precise. ##### the boardroom. Months later, at a corporate gala and then in a packed boardroom, Gregory swaggered through a presentation of global expansion plans. He spoke loudly, believing his charm invincible. Vanessa, his secretary, stood beside him in a showy red dress, part accessory, part provocation. Claire circulated gossip in the executive lounge, painting Jasmine as fragile and easily sidelined. In private, Claire had wavered, once tempted by Gregory's words, once betraying without knowing the full truth. Jasmine watched from the back of the boardroom, calm as a tide. When the meeting adjourned and skeptical directors began their posturing, Jasmine rose. She laid the documents out on the polished table, registered stock certificates, bank ledgers, notarized trusts. "I own Whitmore Enterprises. 90%, she said without flourish. The room gasped. Gregory went pale, then furious. "You're delusional," he stammered. "Sit down. Verify them," Jasmine replied. "The company you celebrate exists because of my investment. Without it, you would have watched everything fall apart." Petty applause died into murmurs. Margaret's face contorted with rage. Daniel's smirk crumbled into calculation. Claire sat frozen, realization and regret etched across her features. "Effective immediately," Jasmine said. "I am removing you as CEO, Gregory." For the first time in public, Gregory had no stage to command. He lunged toward her, but Jasmine stepped back, unshaken. She looked at Claire. "You betrayed me in silence," she said. "That is worse than open cruelty." Tears flowed down Claire's cheeks. Jasmine collected the documents and laid out a plan for new leadership. Integrity and accountability would guide the company now. Jasmine walked out of the boardroom with steady steps and a dignity that could not be stained by spite. Gregory crumpled under the weight of his exposed arrogance. Vanessa slipped away without applause. Claire was left to reckon with the damage she had helped cause. Jasmine's power had never needed to shout. It had been earned in the quiet work behind closed drawers and private names. In the end, it was integrity that endured, and betrayal that destroyed the betrayer.